everybody. Welcome to Club and Country. Russ Thaler back here with you. We are just days away from the Copa America 40-man roster deadline. That's coming up on May 2nd. And that's why we bring in the armchair analyst. Matt Doyle joins us now. And all this week on MLSsoccer.com, Matt, you're going to be revealing the 40-man roster you think Jurgen Klinsmann is going to put out prior to that May 2nd deadline. Let's get into some of those predictions right now. And starting on defense, give me the name of one player who maybe hasn't been on the radar for a little while who you think is going to be on the team.
I think it's Breck Shea, and I think it's for the obvious reason, Russ. Left back. We have not had a long-term answer at left back for a long, long time for the U.S., and we've seen a rotation of guys at that spot under Jurgen Klinsmann, including Breck for a little bit. I think he's played pretty well to start the season for Orlando City. We all remember that goal he scored, but he's really picked it up in terms of understanding defensive positioning, which is really essential for a four-man back line with overlapping fullbacks. He doesn't get loose from his central defenders anymore. I'm not going to say the job is his to lose, but I do think he is the most talented guy that the U.S. could play at that spot, and there's always something to be said for talent.
All right, between World Cup qualifying and also Olympic qualifying, we've seen so many midfielders come and go through the national team setup. Who's going to be on this team that maybe has been on the bubble?
I think it's Lee Nguyen, and this is where trying to figure out what Jurgen Klinsmann is doing is, it's both down the rabbit hole and through the looking glass. You never know. He listed Lee Nguyen as one of the big winners of January camp and then didn't play him at all, hardly in the qualifier. So I don't know what that means exactly, and the Revs haven't been great. But we need more skill in that midfield. We need more creativity, and that's what Lee Nguyen absolutely brings to the table.
All right, and at forward, we've seen some U.S. national team guys doing really well in their respective leagues, between Bobby Wood and then Josie Altidore starting to shape into form here for Toronto FC. And Chris Wondolowski keeps doing what he does. So who's going to maybe get left out amongst the group of forwards for national team guys?
Well, unfortunately, I think it's the guy whose song I've been playing for about 12 months now, CJ Sapong for the Philadelphia Union. You could argue that he has been the MLS MVP so far. He has been that essential to everything they do, not just in goal scoring, but in his ability to hold the ball up, link play, and of course he's an absolute menace on set pieces. But I think with Wondolowski playing so well and with Jurgen Klinsmann having committed so much time and effort to Jordan Morris, I think those two guys get the last two spots on the 40-man roster ahead of CJ Sapong, which breaks my heart a little bit.
We know who gets the first two spots in goal for the United States. It's more of a question of who gets the first spot, but the bigger question is who gets next for Team USA in goal, and how many do they keep, 3 or 4?
Yeah, I think they end up keeping 4. And the surprise here is I don't think that Nick Rimando is going to be one of them. Rimando has pretty consistently been the number 3 choice behind Howard and Guzan for Jurgen Klinsmann. But I do get the impression that Jurgen wants to move to a younger group now. And that of that younger group, the standout guy has been David Bingham for the San Jose Earthquakes. I think he's been one of the 2 best goalkeepers in the league this year, along with Andre Blake, who we'll also see at this tournament. And then the 4th spot, I think they're going to end up bringing in a truly young guy, Ethan Horvath, who played for the U23s, has a little bit of Champions League experience, and is on his way up in Europe.
All right, Matt, thanks a lot. Hey, last week we asked you guys for your thoughts on Jermaine Jones's place within the Copa America roster, and you had some great responses. We're going to get to some of them a little bit later on in the show. But this week we want to know your predictions for the 40-man U.S. national team Copa America roster. And don't waste your time with the names we all know are going to be on the team. Come on, be bold and leave those responses in the comments section. Time now to look at some MLSers who are on the rise, who are also members of their national teams as well. And let's start with Costa Rican Alvaro Saborio. Ben Olsen didn't really use Sabo for DC United for a while, and here he comes with 3 goals in 3 games, and the black and red are in the win column. Saborio is on the rise. Sebastian Giovinco, we all know about him, the reigning MLS MVP. Well, he is second in the league with 6 goals now, including 2 this past weekend. Toronto sits in 3rd place in the East, 1 point behind Philadelphia and Montreal, and amazingly, they haven't even played at home just yet this season. Jordan Morris, after getting his very first ever MLS goal,
cleaned it up. Ivanchich won a ball through. Great run from Morris. He's got his first professional goal for Seattle Sounders on a wonderful finish.
Now he's got goals in back-to-back weeks for the Seattle Sounders. Of course, it didn't help the guys in Rave Green this past weekend, but it did show off for Jurgen Klinsmann, who said he's coming on really strong, sending a statement to their coach in the U.S. that he wants to be in Copa America. Jermaine Jones, hey, you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
To the system, Jones! Well, would you believe it? The script has been written for Jermaine Jones.
Colorado Rapids now sit in second place, amazingly, in the Western Conference. And now for a couple of guys who are on the mend. Real Salt Lake lost for the first time this season. Joao Plata from Ecuador not in the lineup. Coincidence? Probably not. His status is now up in the air as Plata has a quad injury. LA Galaxy, meanwhile, are flying, and that's even without Robbie Keane. But now, less than a month after right knee surgery, Keane is back in training, looking to join the Galacticos, who have started to gel. And now it's time for your responses from last week's question about Jermaine Jones' place within the Copa America roster. And let's start with Dan, who really goes with the intangibles. He said the level of confidence and control that he brings to the team is too important to pass up for the U.S. national team. Joel says that if he continues to play for the Rapids as well as he has in his couple of games that he's been there so far, well, then he deserves to start for the U.S. He's just not sure where on the field. And Chudy, though, he sets up the whole midfield diamond for the national team with Jones and Bradley in the middle, Beckerman behind them, and then he, maybe Wynn or Nagby or Bedoya or even Dempsey up top playing that number 10 position for the U.S. national team. Thanks so much for your responses about Jermaine Jones. Remember, we want to know who you think is going to be on the 40-man roster for the Copa America U.S. national team, and give us some surprises here in the comments section below. That's going to do it for this week's edition of Club and Country. Thanks so much for watching.